Commander Jisoo stood on the bridge of her ship, watching the stars through the large window. She had been patrolling this quiet part of space for 3 years now. Nothing exciting ever happened here. The Galactic Confederation kept peace across hundreds of worlds, and her job was to make sure it stayed that way. "Commander," called Minho from his station. He was her science officer, always checking readings and scanning space. "I'm picking up something strange." Jisoo walked over to look at his screen. Numbers and lines moved across it in patterns she didn't understand. "What kind of strange?" "Energy readings from the edge of our patrol zone. There's a star system there that's not on our maps." Minho frowned at his instruments. "The energy signature is different. I've never seen anything like it." Hana looked up from her workstation. She was young for an archaeologist, but she knew more about ancient history than most people twice her age. "Commander, could I see those readings?" Jisoo nodded. Hana studied the data for several minutes before speaking again. "This reminds me of something I read in the old archives. There were stories about a race called humans. Most people think they're just myths." "Myths?" Jisoo had heard strange stories before, but she always focused on facts. "The records are very old and damaged," Hana explained. "They talk about beings who could build amazing machines and fight like no one else in the galaxy. But they supposedly disappeared during the Great Silence 500 years ago." Dong-Yun, their language expert, joined the conversation. "I remember those stories too. My grandmother used to tell them when I was little. She said humans were real, but they vanished to protect themselves from something terrible." Jisoo considered this information. The Great Silence was a real historical event. For 500 years, entire sections of space had gone dark. No one knew why. When contact was restored, many worlds and species were simply gone. The current Galactic Confederation had formed after that dark period. Set course for those energy readings, Jisoo decided. Let's see what's really out there. The journey took 2 days. As they got closer to the unknown system, Minho's instruments detected more unusual signals. There were artificial structures in space, but they didn't match any known technology. "Commander," Dong-Hyun called out suddenly. "We're receiving a transmission." "From where?" "Unknown source. It's not in any language I recognize, but there are patterns. It might be some kind of warning." The bridge speakers crackled to life. Strange sounds filled the air. Not quite music, not quite speech. Dong-Hyun worked frantically at his station, running the sounds through every translation program they had. "I'm getting partial matches," he said after several minutes. "The basic structure suggests a warning, something about quarantine and danger." Jisoo felt a chill run down her spine. "Can you translate any specific words?" "A few." "Authorized, lethal force, and something that might mean stay away." They were now close enough to see the source of the signals. Ahead of them hung a massive space station, bigger than anything in the Confederation fleet. Its design was smooth and curved, very different from the angular construction methods used by all known species. "That's not one of ours," Minho said quietly. "It's not like anything in our databases," Hana added, studying the station's design. "But there's something familiar about it. The proportions, the way the sections connect. I've seen similar patterns in those old human myths." Suddenly, new signals appeared on their screens. Multiple objects were moving toward them from hidden positions around the station. They looked like weapons platforms, sleek and deadly. "Commander," Minho's voice was tense. "They're targeting us. Whatever those platforms are, they have more firepower than our entire ship." Jisoo had to make a choice. They could run back to Confederation space and report what they'd found. Or they could try to make contact with whoever built this place. Her training said to retreat and call for backup. But something deep inside told her this discovery was too important to walk away from. "Open a channel," she ordered Dong-Yun. "All frequencies." "This is Commander Jisoo of the Galactic Confederation ship Morning Star," she said into the microphone. "We come in peace. We're explorers, not invaders. Please respond." For long moments nothing happened. The weapon platforms continued to track their ship ready to fire. Jisoo wondered if she had made a terrible mistake. Then a new voice came through their speakers. It spoke perfect Confederation standard, the common language used across all member worlds. "Commander Jisoo, this is Border Station 7. You are approaching restricted human territory. State your intentions immediately." The bridge fell silent. Human territory. The myths were real. "We're here to explore and learn," Jisoo replied, trying to keep her voice steady. "We detected unusual energy readings and came to investigate." We mean no harm. Hold your position, the voice commanded. A diplomatic team will meet with you shortly. Any aggressive action will result in immediate defensive measures. A smaller ship launched from the station and approached them. It was beautiful in a way that took Jisu's breath away. Every line flowed smoothly into the next, as if the entire vessel had been grown rather than built. They're requesting permission to dock, Dongyan reported. Grant it, Jisoo said. As the human ship connected to theirs, Jisoo gathered her senior officers. Whatever happens next, she told them, remember that we're representing the entire Confederation. These humans have been hiding out here for 500 years. There must be a reason. The airlock opened and 3 figures stepped through. They looked almost exactly like several species in the Confederation, but there was something different about them. They moved with a confidence that spoke of great strength hidden beneath calm surfaces. The leader was a tall man with kind eyes but a serious expression. I am Jihoon, diplomatic representative for the Human Colonial Authority. Welcome to our space, Commander Jisoo. We have much to discuss. Thank you for not shooting us, Jisoo replied, then immediately worried she had said something wrong. Jihoon smiled slightly. We don't shoot explorers. We've been watching your Confederation for a very long time. You seem to be good people trying to keep peace in the galaxy. We respect that. Then why stay hidden? Because, Jihoon's expression grew dark. There are things coming that your people are not ready to face. Things we've been preparing for while you built your peaceful civilization. The question now is whether we can prepare you in time. Jisoo felt that chill again, stronger this time. In time for what? For the return of our ancient enemy. They're coming back, Commander, and this time they're hungry for more than just human worlds. 6 months after the Great Battle, Jisoo stood in what had once been the Confederation Council chambers. The room looked very different now. Where once only 5 species had held power, representatives from dozens of worlds now worked together, and at the center of it all sat humans, no longer myths but partners in building a new future. Jiho, now serving as the human ambassador, was addressing the assembly. The threat is not over, he said calmly. Our long-range scouts have detected 3 more Devourer fleets moving toward our galaxy. But we have something now that we didn't have before. Unity. Jisoo smiled as she watched the proceedings. It had taken months of careful diplomacy to reach this point. Many Confederation worlds had been suspicious of human technology and motives. Others had wanted to surrender rather than fight. But gradually, wisdom had prevailed. The integration of human and Confederation technology is proceeding ahead of schedule, reported Cheong, who now served as head of the Joint Military Training Program. Our new ships are faster, stronger, and more effective than anything either of our civilizations could build alone. Admiral Nagyung nodded approvingly. The old warrior had become one of humanity's strongest supporters after seeing them fight. The joint fleet now numbers over 10,000 vessels. When the next Devourer attack comes, we'll be ready. But it wasn't just about military preparation. Sujin, a young Confederation student, stood to address the assembly. I've been studying at the New Earth University, she said. The things humans have preserved, sciences and arts that we thought were lost forever, they've been keeping the galaxy's heritage alive while we forgot our own history. This was perhaps the most remarkable discovery of all. During their 5 centuries of isolation, humans had not just prepared for war, they had also become guardians of galactic culture. Libraries, museums, and archives that other species had lost or forgotten were preserved in human memory banks. We saved what we could, explained Guangsu, the elderly human emperor who had emerged from stasis to help lead the new alliance. We knew that if we failed, there would be no one left to remember what the galaxy had been. Jisoo thought about how much had changed since that first day when she'd detected strange energy readings. Her ship, the Morning Star, was now equipped with hybrid human Confederation technology. Her crew had learned to use weapons that bent reality itself. More importantly, they had learned to work with humans as equals rather than mysterious saviors. The initial awe had faded, replaced by genuine friendship and respect. The new defense grid is almost complete, announced Seung-hoon, the human strategic coordinator. Every major system now has early warning sensors and rapid response fleets. The Devourers won't be able to surprise us again. What about the outer colonies? Asked a representative from the Rim worlds. They're still vulnerable to fast attack fleets. That's where our mobile bases come in. replied Jinwoo, who commanded the Confederation's rebuilt expeditionary force. We've learned from human design principles. Our new installations can be moved or evacuated in hours rather than days. The changes went deeper than just technology and tactics. The entire philosophy of galactic civilization was evolving. Where once there had been rigid boundaries between species and territories, now there was fluid cooperation based on shared needs and mutual support. Hyerim, a human child born after the war, played in the assembly's garden with alien friends. They chattered together in a mixture of languages, their differences a source of delight rather than division. Watching them, Jisoo felt hope for the future. The cultural exchange programs are exceeding all expectations, reported a Veltari social coordinator. Human literature and art are being translated into hundreds of languages. Their stories of sacrifice and determination are inspiring young people across the galaxy. But perhaps the most significant change was in how the galaxy thought about security. The old model of defensive warfare was being replaced by human concepts of aggressive protection. We're not waiting for the enemy to come to us, explained Youngmin, the human supreme commander. Our deep space fleets are hunting devourer scouting parties before they can report back to their main forces. Isn't that dangerous? Asked a cautious Ashanti diplomat. What if we provoke them into a larger attack? They're already planning larger attacks, Youngman replied. The only question is whether we face them on our terms or theirs. This represented a fundamental shift in galactic thinking. For centuries, Confederation doctrine had emphasized defensive measures and diplomatic solutions. Humans had taught them that some enemies couldn't be negotiated with, they could only be defeated. The new shipyards are producing vessels faster than we can train crews, reported an excited Kyrillian engineer. Human automated systems are incredible. Ships that would have taken years to build are now completed in months. Training is keeping pace, added a human instructor. We're not just teaching people to operate our technology. We're teaching them to think the way we think, to see patterns, anticipate problems, and adapt quickly to changing situations. Jisoo had been part of this training herself. Learning to fight like a human wasn't just about using their weapons. It was about changing how you thought about problems. Humans didn't just react to situations. They anticipated them, planned for them, and shaped them to their advantage. The question now, Ambassador Jiho continued, is not whether we can survive the next devourer attack. The question is whether we can take the war to them. This brought excited murmurs from the assembly. The idea of actively hunting devourers in dark space would have been unthinkable a year ago. Now it seemed not just possible but necessary. Our scientists are working on ships that can survive in dark space, announced Sunmi, the physicist whose weapons had turned the tide of the great battle. If we can build bases between the galaxies, we can intercept devourer fleets before they reach populated areas. The risks are enormous, warned a concerned medical officer. Dark space isn't meant for living beings. The radiation alone could kill entire crews. That's why we're developing automated systems, a human engineer explained. Ships that can fight without crews, guided by quantum-entangled commanders operating from safe distances. As the session continued, Jisoo marveled at how quickly impossible things were becoming routine. Humans had a gift for making the extraordinary seem ordinary, for taking concepts that stretch the imagination and turning them into practical tools. There's something else we need to discuss, Ambassador Jiho said, as the formal presentations ended. The long-term future of our alliance, and what do you mean? Asked Admiral Nagyung. The Devourers aren't the only threat out there, Jiho explained. Our scouts have detected other hostile forces in nearby galaxies. Machine intelligences, energy beings, things that make the Devourers look simple by comparison. The assembly fell quiet. The idea that there were worse things than Devourers was almost too frightening to consider. But, Jiho continued with a slight smile, we also have advantages we didn't have before. We have allies, technology, and most importantly, we have hope. Hope? Asked a young representative. Yes, Jiho said. For the first time in 5 centuries, humans aren't fighting alone. And for the first time in galactic history, all the major species are truly working together. That combination makes us stronger than any individual threat. As the assembly broke up into smaller working groups, Jisoo found herself standing with Jihoon, the diplomat who had first welcomed her to human space. Do you regret that day? He asked. When you decided to investigate those energy readings? Jisoo thought about everything that had happened, the battles, the losses, the fear, but also the friendships, the discoveries, and the hope for a better future. "No," she said firmly. "I don't regret it at all. The galaxy needed to wake up. We were living in a dream of safety that was never real. And now we're building something real, something that can last." Above them, through the chamber's transparent ceiling, stars shone peacefully. But Jisoo knew that among those stars, human and Confederation ships were patrolling together, watching for threats, ready to respond to any danger. The age of myths was over. The age of legends fighting side by side had begun, and whatever came next, they would face it together. The main Devourer fleet arrived ahead of schedule, emerging from dark space like a plague of mechanical locusts. Jisoo stood on the bridge of her ship, now part of a combined human Confederation force watching the enemy approach. There were so many ships that they blocked out the stars. "Final count shows over 400,000 enemy vessels," reported Soo-young, the human engineer who had been upgrading Confederation weapons. "They're organized into hunting groups, each targeting a different sector." Admiral Nagyung's voice crackled over the communication system. "All ships, this is Fleet Command. We're outnumbered 1,000 to 1, but we're not fighting alone anymore. Our human allies have shared their technology and tactics. Follow their lead and we might just survive this." Hyunwoo, commanding the massive human dreadnought Indomitable, coordinated the defense. His ship was a fortress in space, bristling with weapons that could tear holes in reality itself. But even that monster looked small compared to what was coming. "Enemy lead elements will reach Kepler Station in 1 hour," he announced. "All civilian ships are to evacuate immediately. Military vessels, prepare for engagement." Jisoo watched as human ships took position around the station. They moved like a school of fish, each vessel knowing exactly where the others would be without needing to communicate. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "How do they coordinate like that?" Minyo asked. "Quantum entanglement communicators," Soo-young explained while working on their weapon systems. "Human ships share information instantly across any distance. Each captain knows what every other captain is thinking." The first wave of Devourers arrived like a tsunami of metal and malice. They swept toward the station, their ships changing shape as they moved, becoming more streamlined, more deadly. "Here they come," Hyunwoo's calm voice announced. "All ships weapons free. Remember, aim for the quantum cores. Everything else just makes them angry." The battle erupted in silence and fury. Human ships fired their dark energy weapons, carving through Devourer hulls like hot knives through ice. But for every enemy ship destroyed, 2 more took its place. Jisoo's ship had been equipped with human weapons, but she quickly learned they were not easy to use. The targeting systems required intuitive thinking rather than logical calculation. You had to feel where the enemy would be, not calculate it. "I can't get a lock," Minho complained, struggling with the new weapons. "Don't think about it," advised Daeho, the human pilot who was training their crew. "Just point and shoot where you feel the enemy is going to be." It sounded impossible, but somehow it worked. Jisoo found herself hitting targets she couldn't possibly have calculated the position of. Human technology didn't just enhance their weapons, it enhanced their natural instincts. Around them, the battle raged with impossible intensity. Younghwan led human marines in boarding actions against Devourer ships. They wore armor that seemed to bend light around them, making them nearly invisible as they fought through the enemy vessels. "How are they surviving in there?" Hana asked, watching the Marines disappear into a Devourer ship. "The armor creates a localized reality field," Soo-young explained. "Inside that field, physics work the way humans understand them. Outside the field, the Devourers can manipulate matter however they want." The battle was unlike anything Jisoo had ever imagined. Ships appeared and disappeared as space itself was folded and twisted by competing technologies. Human vessels seemed to dance between dimensions while Devourer craft flowed like liquid metal through 3-dimensional space. But slowly, the tide began to turn. Human tactics and weapons were taking their toll on the enemy fleet. The Devourers had never faced opponents who could match their ability to manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe. "Enemy command ship identified," Yuna reported from her intelligence station. "It's that massive one in the center of their formation." Jisoo looked at the main screen and gasped. The Devourer command ship was larger than a moon, its surface covered with weapons and processing facilities. Smaller ships swarmed around it like antibodies protecting a vital organ. That thing is coordinating their entire fleet, Yunwu observed. If we can destroy it, the rest might lose coordination. It's too well defended, Admiral Nagyung protested. We'd lose half our fleet just getting close. Not necessarily, said a new voice. Nayeon, a Confederation war correspondent who had been documenting the battle, had been listening to human tactical discussions. The humans have a plan, don't you? Taehyung appeared on the main screen, his face grim but determined. We do have a plan, but it requires sacrifice. A volunteer ship will need to penetrate the enemy defenses and deliver a quantum destabilizer directly to their command vessel's core. That's a suicide mission, the Admiral said flatly. Yes, Taehyung agreed. It is. Before anyone could object, a young human captain named Young-ho volunteered. I'll do it. My ship is fast enough to get through their defenses. Young-ho, no, Hyunwoo protested. You're too valuable to lose. Everyone's valuable, Young-ho replied. But someone has to do it, and my ship has the best chance of success. Jisoo watched as Young-ho's vessel, a sleek craft called Last Hope, began its approach to the enemy command ship. Human and Confederation vessels covered its advance, drawing fire away from the suicide run. The Last Hope moved like a silver dart, weaving between enemy weapons fire with impossible grace. Young-ho pushed his ship to its limits, using every trick human engineers had developed over 5 centuries of preparation. He's through the outer defenses, Soo-young reported, watching the tactical display. But the inner ring is too dense. He'll never make it. That's when something unexpected happened. Confederation ships began following the Last Hope, adding their firepower to clear a path. Admiral Na-gyung led the charge in his flagship, absorbing damage that would have destroyed Young-ho's smaller vessel. All ships, support the Last Hope, the Admiral commanded. Clear him a path to that command ship. The combined fleet threw everything they had at the Devourer defenses. Ships exploded on both sides as the battle reached its climax. But somehow, impossibly, Young-ho's ship reached the enemy command vessel. Quantum destabilizer armed, his voice came over the communication channel, calm despite the chaos around him. Beginning final approach. The Last Hope disappeared into the massive Devourer ship, boring deep into its core. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then space itself seemed to hiccup. The enemy command ship simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, erased. Where it had been, there was now empty space that seemed somehow cleaner than the vacuum around it. The effect rippled outward through the Devourer fleet. Ships that had been moving in perfect coordination suddenly began crashing into each other. Their weapons stopped firing in unison and started firing randomly. The quantum destabilizer worked, Sunmi, the human physicist who had designed the weapon, reported with amazement in her voice. The command ship's destruction created a cascade failure in their fleet network. Without central coordination, the Devourer ships became vulnerable to conventional tactics. The combined human Confederation fleet pressed their advantage, systematically destroying the confused enemy vessels. But the victory came at a terrible cost. Dozens of ships had been lost and thousands of brave beings had died. Among them was Young-ho, who had sacrificed himself to save everyone else. He saved us all, Admiral Na-gyung said quietly as they watched the last Devourer ships flee into dark space. Human and Confederation alike. He did what humans have always done, Ji-hoon replied sadly. He gave everything to protect others. As the battlefield fell silent, Jisoo realized that something fundamental had changed. The myths had become reality, legends had become allies, and the galaxy would never be the same. Is it over? She asked. This battle is, Taehyung replied, but the war isn't. There are more Devourer fleets out there and they'll be back. But next time we'll be ready for them. Together, Admiral Na-gyung added firmly, human and Confederation, fighting as one. Jisoo looked at the stars, no longer seeing empty space but a frontier full of possibilities and dangers. The age of peaceful isolation was over. The age of cooperation had begun. The journey back to Confederation space took 3 days, but they weren't traveling alone. Ji-hoon had convinced the human leadership to send a small fleet as proof of their claims. Jisoo watched through her ship's windows as human vessels emerged from hidden bases throughout the region. The human ships were like nothing she had ever seen. They moved too smoothly, turned too quickly, and seemed to bend light around their hulls. Taehyung, the human fleet commander, had explained it was stealth technology, but to Jisoo it looked like magic. "Commander," Minho called from his station. "We're receiving emergency transmissions from Confederation Command. Multiple colonies have gone silent in the past day." Jisoo felt her heart sink. The Devourers were moving faster than anyone had expected. "Patch me through to Admiral Nagyung," she ordered. The main screen lit up with the image of a massive Bruthan warrior. The Bruthan were the Confederation's primary military force, proud fighters who had never lost a major battle. "Commander Jisoo," the Admiral's voice rumbled through the speakers. "Where have you been? We've been trying to reach you for hours. Sir, I've been making contact with allies. We have critical information about the attacks on our outer colonies." "Attacks?" The Admiral's large eyes narrowed. "Our investigation teams found no evidence of weapons fire. The colonies appear to have been harvested, some kind of industrial accident perhaps." Behind Jisoo, Jihoon shook his head sadly. "They don't understand," he said quietly. "They're trying to find a rational explanation for something completely outside their experience." "Admiral," Jisoo continued, "the colonies weren't destroyed by accidents. They were consumed by an enemy called the Devourers. I have representatives here who can explain everything." "Representatives? From where?" Jihoon stepped into view of the camera. "Admiral, I am Jihoon of the Human Colonial Authority. We've been monitoring this threat for 5 centuries. We're here to help." The Admiral stared at the screen for several seconds. Humans are myths." "No, sir, we're not. And neither are the Devourers that are currently consuming your outer worlds." "This is ridiculous," the Admiral snorted. "Command, cut this transmission." Commander Jisoo returned to base immediately for debriefing. The screen went dark. Jisoo sighed and turned to Jihoon. "I'm sorry. The Confederation leadership can be stubborn." "We expected this," Jihoon replied. "Peaceful civilizations always deny threats until it's almost too late. Fortunately, we don't need their permission to protect their worlds." "What do you mean?" Taehyung appeared on another screen from his flagship. "Commander Jisoo, our long-range sensors are tracking a large Devourer force heading for the Kepler station system. That station has over 3 million inhabitants. How long until they arrive?" Jisoo asked. 6 hours. "Can the Confederation fleet reach them in time?" "No," Jihoon said flatly. "But we can." Jisoo watched as the human fleet changed course, accelerating toward Kepler station at speeds that should have been impossible. Her own ship was pulled along in some kind of energy field generated by the human vessels. "How are you doing this?" Minho asked, staring at his instruments in amazement. "Dark matter manipulation," Taehyung explained. "We create a bubble of altered space-time around our ships. From inside the bubble, we're not moving at all. It's space itself that's moving around us." As they traveled, Jisoo learned more about human capabilities. Minji, a human scientist, explained their weapon systems. Their ships didn't just carry guns. They carried devices that could manipulate the basic forces of the universe. "We learned that conventional weapons are useless against Devourers," Minji said. "Their hulls absorb energy and their systems convert kinetic impacts into power. So we had to develop weapons that attack the quantum structure of matter itself." "That sounds dangerous," Hana said. "Everything about fighting Devourers is dangerous," replied Yuna, a human intelligence officer who had joined the conversation. "These enemies don't just want to defeat you. They want to consume every atom of your existence." They reached Kepler station just as the Devourer fleet arrived. Jisoo gasped at the sight on her main screen. The enemy ships were even more horrible in person than in the recordings. They moved like living things flowing through space with no regard for physics as normal beings understood it. The Confederation Defense Fleet was already engaging them. Admiral Nagyung's ships fired everything they had at the approaching enemy. Energy beams, missiles, and kinetic projectiles struck the Devourer vessels and were completely absorbed. "Their shields are consuming our weapons," came the Admiral's frustrated voice over the communication channel. "Nothing is getting through." "Admiral," Jisoo broadcast, "let us help you." "Commander, what are you doing here? And what are those ships with you?" Before Jisoo could answer, the human fleet moved into attack formation. Taehyung's voice came over all channels. "Confederation vessels, this is Human Fleet Commander Taehyung. We're here to assist. Please move to minimum safe distance and prepare to witness weapons test." "Human fleet?" The Admiral sounded confused. "There's no such thing." The human ships opened fire. But these weren't normal weapons. Beams of impossible darkness lanced out from the human vessels, striking the Devourer ships. Where the dark energy touched the enemy hulls, matter simply stopped existing. Entire sections of Devourer ships vanished as if they had never been there. What kind of weapons are those? The Admiral demanded. Quantum disruptors, Taehyung replied calmly. They convince matter that it doesn't want to exist anymore. But the Devourers adapted quickly. Their ships began changing shape, becoming more fluid, harder to target. Smaller craft launched from the larger vessels, swarming toward both human and Confederation ships. Fighters incoming, reported Diho, a human pilot, beginning evasive maneuvers. Jisoo watched in amazement as human fighter craft danced through space, avoiding enemy fire with impossible grace. The pilot seemed to predict where attacks would come from before the enemy even fired. How do they do that? Minho asked. Intuition, Jihoon explained. Humans have always been good at pattern recognition and split-second decision-making. In space combat, that's more valuable than pure technology. The battle raged for hours. Human ships worked in perfect coordination, covering each other and striking at weak points in the enemy formation. Slowly, they began to push the Devourers back, but victory came at a cost. Jisoo watched as a young human captain named Minseo sacrificed her ship to destroy a massive Devourer command vessel. Her final message echoed across all channels. Remember us to those who come after. When the last Devourer ship was destroyed, silence fell over the fleet. Admiral Nagyung's face appeared on Jisoo's screen. His expression completely changed. Human Commander Taehyung, he said formally, I owe you an apology, and the Confederation owes you a debt we can never repay. No debt necessary, Admiral, Taehyung replied. We're all in this together now. How many more of those things are coming? The Admiral asked. Yuna answered from her station. Our intelligence suggests this was just a scouting force. The main Devourer fleet is still in dark space, but they'll arrive soon. Hundreds of thousands of ships, hundreds of thousands. The Admiral looked pale. Yes, Jihoon said. This is why we've spent 5 centuries preparing. This is why we developed these weapons and trained our entire population for war. This is what we've been warning you about. What do we do now? The Admiral asked. Now, Taehyung said, we prepare for the real war, and we hope the rest of the Confederation is smarter than their leadership has been so far. As if summoned by his words, new signals appeared on long-range sensors. More ships were approaching, massive formations coming from the direction of dark space. How long until they reach us? Jisoo asked. 3 days, Yuna reported grimly. Maybe less. Then we'd better get ready, Jihoon said. Because what you just saw was nothing compared to what's coming. Jisoo looked at the debris field where the Devourer ships had been destroyed. Even in death, they looked wrong somehow, as if their existence violated the natural order of the universe. How do we fight something like that on a larger scale? Very carefully, Taehyung replied. And with a lot more help than we have right now. Jihoon led them through corridors that seemed to glow with soft light from the walls themselves. Everything was clean and efficient, but also somehow alive. Jisoo had never seen technology like this. Your ship is amazing, Hana said, looking around with wide eyes. Thank you, Jihoon replied. We've had 5 centuries to improve our designs. When you're preparing for war, you learn to build things that last. They entered a large room with a curved table. Windows showed the stars outside, but Jisoo noticed they could also display information like computer screens. 2 other humans were waiting for them. This is Sumin, our communications specialist, Jihoon said, pointing to a woman with short hair and quick, intelligent eyes. And this is Yoonji, our historian. She knows more about the old days than almost anyone alive. Yoonji was older, with gray in her hair and lines around her eyes that spoke of years spent studying difficult truths. She smiled at the visitors, but it was a sad smile. Please sit, Jihoon said. We have a lot to explain and not much time to do it. Jisoo and her officers took seats around the table. The surface lit up with images and star maps. First, you should know that everything your people believe about the Great Silence is wrong, Yoonji began. It wasn't a natural disaster or a random event. It was a war, the largest war this galaxy has ever seen. The table showed pictures of space battles. Huge ships fought against things that looked like machines, but wrong somehow. They were too big, too sharp, and they moved in ways that hurt to watch. What are those? Minho asked, pointing at the machine-like ships. We call them Devourers, Suman said. They're not alive, but they're not just machines either. They consume everything. Planets, stars, entire solar systems. They turn matter into energy and energy into more of themselves. That's impossible, Minho protested. Nothing could do that. We thought so too, Yunji said sadly. We were wrong. They came from dark space, from between the galaxies. At first, we tried to fight them the normal way. Ship against ship, weapon against weapon. We lost badly. The images changed, showing human worlds under attack. Cities burning, people running, ships fleeing as massive mechanical forms descended from the sky. How did you survive? Jisoo asked. By learning to think differently, Jihoon answered. Humans have always been good at adapting. We studied the enemy, learned how they worked, and discovered their weaknesses. But the cost? He paused, and Jisoo saw pain in his eyes. We had to abandon entire worlds, Yunji continued. Millions of people died buying time for others to escape. We developed new technologies, new weapons, new ways of fighting. But we also had to disappear. Disappear. The Devourers track their enemies through communication networks and trade routes, Suman explained. They follow the connections between worlds. So we cut all our connections. We erased every record of human civilization we could find. We made ourselves into myths and legends. But why? Hana asked. Why not warn the other species? We tried, Yunji said bitterly. The major powers at that time didn't believe us. They thought we were trying to gain advantage in political games. Some even made deals with advanced Devourer scouts, thinking they were just another species to trade with. The star map changed, showing the current Confederation territory. Your peaceful civilization grew up in the shadow of our sacrifice, Jihoon said. While you built trade networks and diplomatic alliances, we built weapons and prepared for the Devourer's return. Return? Jisoo felt cold fear creeping up her spine. They always come back, Suman said. They strip a galaxy clean, then move on to find new feeding grounds. But they remember where the good hunting was. Our scouts have detected the first advanced ships entering this galaxy from dark space. Minho was studying the technical displays. Your technology is incredible. These energy readings are beyond anything we have. We've spent 500 years focused on one goal, Jihoon explained, making weapons that can kill Devourers. Normal energy weapons just feed them. Kinetic weapons bounce off their hulls. Nuclear weapons make them stronger. Then how do you fight them? Donghyun asked. Very carefully and with technology that shouldn't exist, Yunji said. We learned to manipulate dark matter, to create controlled black holes, to fold space-time itself into a weapon. The physics books say it's impossible. The Devourers proved the physics books wrong. Suddenly, alarms began ringing throughout the station. Suman touched a control on the table and new images appeared. Long-range sensors are picking up massive energy signatures at the galaxy's edge, she reported. The signatures match Devourer scout fleets. How long do we have? Jihoon asked. At their current speed, they'll reach the Outer Confederation worlds in 6 months. Jisoo stood up quickly. I have to warn my people. The Confederation needs to know. Of course, Jihoon agreed. But I should warn you, they probably won't believe you. Peaceful civilizations always think they can negotiate with any threat. They don't understand that some things only want to consume. Then you'll have to come with us, Jisoo said. Show them your evidence. We've already prepared for that possibility, Yunji said. But first you need to see what you're really up against. The room's windows changed, showing real-time images from human scout ships near the galaxy's edge. In the distance, barely visible against the stars, were shapes that made Jisoo's mind struggle to understand what she was seeing. The Devourer ships were enormous, bigger than any space station. But they didn't look built. They looked grown like metal tumors spreading across space. Smaller ships swarmed around them like insects, but even the smallest was larger than Jisoo's vessel. There are thousands of them, Minho whispered. This is just the advance fleet, Suman said grimly. The main force is still coming through from dark space. Our estimates suggest they have enough ships to consume every inhabited world in the galaxy within 2 years. Unless we stop them, Jihoon added. How? Jisoo asked. If they're that powerful, how can anyone stop them? The same way we stopped them before, Yunji said. By being willing to sacrifice everything to protect what matters. By fighting smarter instead of harder, and by working together. Will the Confederation work with you? Some will, Jihoon said. The smart ones who understand what's coming. Others will think we're lying or trying to take over. Politicians always think everyone else is playing the same games they are. What about your people? Jisoo asked. How many humans are there? Where are your worlds? We don't have worlds anymore, Suman said quietly. We have ships, stations, and mobile colonies. Everything we built can be moved or abandoned if necessary. We learned that lesson the hard way. Our population is smaller than it was, Yunji added. But every human alive today has spent their entire life preparing for this war. We don't have farmers or artists or shopkeepers anymore. We have soldiers, engineers, and scientists. That sounds like a terrible way to live, Hana said softly. It is, Ji-hoon agreed. But it's the price we pay so that other species can have farmers and artists and shopkeepers. Someone has to stand guard while the galaxy sleeps. Another alarm sounded and new images appeared on the table. This time they showed Confederation space, specifically several outer worlds. What are we looking at? Jisoo asked. Confederation Colony New Horizon, Suman said. It stopped transmitting 3 hours ago. The images showed a world that had been stripped bare. Where there should have been cities and forests, there was only empty rock. The oceans were gone. Even the atmosphere had been consumed. They're not waiting, Ji-hoon said grimly. The advanced scouts are already starting to feed. Commander Jisoo, I'm afraid your people are out of time. Jisoo stared at the dead world on the screen. Yesterday, 50 million beings had lived there. Now there was nothing but rock floating in space. What do we do now? She asked. Now, Ji-hoon said, standing up, we go to war.